You guys know what a minnow is,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
How big are minnows?
Maybe about an inch.
Are they? Like,
This is
this is a minnow. Carp are in the minnow family. Minnows are just a family of fish. Minnow is the family name, and carp and goldfish are in that family, so carp are actually minnows. The whole point of me taking this from Nora was to tell you that not all minnows are tiny fish, and not all tiny fish are minnows. We got some little stuff in here that will show you that are not actually in the minnow family. So, hi. We don't normally put carp in our live well because fish have a slime coat on them, and that's what protects them. Fish don't wear clothes, they don't wear coats. You know, they have this slime that helps protect them from diseases and parasites, and it helps them slip through the water.
We did get several different families of fish today. One of the families that we got was in the sunfish family. So sunfish, they have a very spiny dorsal fin, and they actually look, if you look at them from the top, they look very flat. And if you turn them sideways, they look like a pancake. So they actually are, they call them panfish a lot of times. So we did get some crappies, which there is a lake upstream, so I'm imagining that they're usually a lake species, so I'm imagining that they're probably getting in the river from Deercreek Lake. But it looks like we got some actually small crappies. They're right in here. Let me see if I can get one out. There's a white crappie and a black crappie. So these are the different species, and these guys will get huge. They will get very large. A lot of people like to fish for crappies in the spring. They will do a lot of spawning in wetland but shallow areas, and fishermen will wade into those shallow areas and catch crappie a lot of times in the spring. We also got a rock bass, a little baby rock bass. I'm trying to find where he is. He's one of my favorite fish because rock bass are so distinct. They actually have a red eye when you look at them. But he was a pretty small guy. It was actually the first fish that we caught when we were just starting to electrofish. We got a few other types of sunfish. We actually got long-ear sunfish, and there are a few hybrids in here as well. Long-ear sunfish are one of my favorite fish as well. They're very colorful. We didn't unfortunately get a male. The males are just gorgeous and colorful, and they look almost like a tropical fish. But yeah, this larger one looks like a hybrid to us. We're thinking this is some type of hybrid, probably between a green and a long-ear or something like that. These sunfish, they actually spawn in little nests in the creek. So a lot of times they'll use the same nests, and that's why there's a lot of hybridization that occurs with the sunfish. The other group of fish that we're finding, they're actually in this top area. And earlier we showed you a carp, which are in the minnow family, Cyprinidae. But these are also minnows here, and it's a little school of blunt-nosed minnows. Blunt-nosed minnows are omnivores. That means that they'll eat pretty much anything that they can. So they're actually a little more tolerant to pollution because they can kind of switch their diet. They're not a specialist. Specialists, though, are very sensitive to pollution. They can be really sensitive to siltation as well. So we have some specialist fish that are in here as well. These are in the perch family. They're called darters. Darters are usually an indication of really high quality water. They usually need good habitat and good water quality to be able to survive. They spawn by just broadcasting their eggs out into a gravel area, and then they don't provide any parental care at all. So those guys tend to be really impacted if there's a lot of silt and sediment in the stream. So we got many different species of darters. This one is a greenside darter. You can see that. Darters can be one of the most colorful fish in the springtime especially. We see a lot of, the males especially are very colorful. We actually have a rainbow darter in here. And this is a good example of what the males would look like in the spring. And you know, they're just like birds where the males are more colorful, the females are drab, because the females are trying not to get eaten by other fish, where the males are trying to attract the females. So they're taking the risks of being colorful and bright. But that's just a gorgeous fish right there. So yeah, I would say rainbows are one of my favorites because they're just so pretty and colorful. And I think that when people see rainbow darters too, they just realize, wow, there's so many beautiful fish in the streams. I had no idea that we have these fish that look so tropical. We also had a really, really cool fish called a blue breast darter. I'm trying to see if I can find him. Unfortunately, a lot of times when they get out of the water for a little bit, they lose their color. But the reason they're called blue breast darters is because they have blue on the bottom of their body. There it is, look at that. So it's actually, that part of their body is considered their breast. That's the bottom part of their body. And they are a very, very good indicator of water quality. We don't have blue breast darters in many streams in Ohio. It's usually in some of the highest quality streams in the state. So it's really exciting to find blue breast darters. I don't see them. We sample a lot in southeastern Ohio. We do have a lot of mine drainage in our streams. Streams are improving tremendously, but just the natural habitat for darters just isn't there. We get a lot of the more pool species of darters like black-sided darters and dusky darters because we don't have a lot of these riffle areas. They love riffles, and the geology in this area is perfect for darters as well. Just a lot of good habitat for them. So you see a lot of blue breasts and tippecanoes and that kind of stuff in Darby Creek and Deercreek. So Deercreek's a really wonderful stream. Amy, do you want to talk about the macroinvertebrates that we found in here?
Yeah. This one here is actually a dragonfly larva. So as adults, dragonflies are terrestrial. They fly around, they land in trees, they sit on rocks. But their larvae are actually aquatic. They'll spend several years in the water. They're a predatory aquatic macroinvertebrate. So these larvae actually eat other small invertebrates that are in the water. So little mayfly larvae, little midge larvae, these are predatory on those. They're not going to hurt people. They have, you probably won't be able to see this, but they have a very cool trapdoor mouth. Their mouth actually shoots out away from their head. When a prey item gets close to them, they'll shoot that mouth out and grab that in and eat it. This one here, you can see it's shaped a lot like these leaves that are floating around in the water. They'll actually live down in leaf packs at the bottom of pools. You don't ever see them. The only way we see them is because we're walking along and sort of disturb that substrate, and they'll float up to the surface and just drift along until they land somewhere else. They're completely harmless. A lot of people think that they're spiders, but they are an insect. They have 6 legs. They'll live in the water for several years before they come out on a limb or a branch, piece of overhanging vegetation. They'll actually crack their exoskeleton right down the middle and emerge as an adult dragonfly with wings, and then continue its life in its terrestrial form. This one here is a Gomphidae. That's the family of dragonfly that this larva belongs to. So these are crayfish. They are not an insect. They are still a macroinvertebrate. So they're an invertebrate. They don't have a backbone, and they're large enough that we can see them with the naked eye. So macroinvertebrate. Instead of a backbone, they have an exoskeleton. So this hard shell that they have. In order to grow, these macroinvertebrates have to shed that exoskeleton, and as they crawl out, their shell rehardens, and then they'll be larger. These are related to lobsters. They look very similar to a little freshwater lobster. They do use their pinchers, their claws there, as mainly for defense, for fighting. They will fight with other ones. They will use them some for capturing prey as well. They live primarily on the bottom, under rocks, and they'll catch small worms or dying fish. They really like to eat stuff that has already died. So if a fish dies and is in the water, the crayfish will definitely be the cleanup crew there. So these are whirligig beetles. They are an aquatic beetle. Their larval form is also aquatic. What's cool about these ones, they'll swim around on the surface of the water, but they also can dive down below. And they'll actually carry a bubble of oxygen on their abdomen down to below the surface, and they can breathe that way. And they also have divided eyes. When you look at them under a microscope, it looks as though they have 4 eyes. That way they can see above the water surface and below the water surface at the same time.
What about the smell?
And sometimes they smell like Jolly Rancher green apple. This is a tadpole, the juvenile form of a frog. Most of our tadpoles here in Ohio are only in the water for 1 season. So the frog or toad lays the eggs in the water in the spring, and then they'll metamorphosize by the fall. But green frogs and bullfrogs will overwinter at least 1 winter as a tadpole. So this one here, since it is still springtime, is either a bullfrog or a green frog tadpole. These aren't typically found in rivers, usually in ponds, but anywhere where there's slow-moving water. They eat mostly decaying vegetation and detritus off the bottom. They'll eventually start growing little small back legs here by their tail, and then they'll grow front legs here, and then they'll absorb their tail before coming out on land as a frog.